Hello and welcome back to PennLive's East Pittsburgh football studios, where I, Jacob Klinger, your Steelers beat reporter, will be wrapping up the second week 2 of the Steelers 2017 offseason, which will end with the Super Bowl that the Steelers are not playing in, as you all may have noticed. Let's get situated here. The week included the Steelers making 2 free agent signings, one of which was their long snapper, Greg Warren, who will be snapping the ball to Chris Boswell or Jordan Berry or whoever's kicking or punting the ball for the Steelers. He's been doing that for more than a decade now. The Steelers will probably bring in someone for camp to long snap alongside him. That person will probably be cut. They will probably not play for the Steelers next year. The Steelers also signed Fitzgerald Toussaint, their third string running back, which may give them a little bit of flexibility as they look at signing or not re-signing D'Angelo Williams to be Le'Veon Bell's backup again. Probably not too much in that direction. I'm sure D'Angelo Williams could play elsewhere. He seems to like playing for the Steelers, and as far as teams where, that would pick up a veteran backup and be willing to have a role for him that he'll realistically have, the Steelers are probably his best chance to go and win a title. But Fitzgerald Toussaint shouldn't affect him too much. It just means the Steelers do have a running back who they've trusted in big games before, definitely going into next season. The Steelers, by my count, have at least 21 free agents left to sign or not re-sign. Some of them they definitely will not. We've talked about this before. Guys like Jarvis Jones are at risk, Landry Jones is at risk, a bunch of other players whose names you've never heard of. Those are some of the interesting things that we'll keep an eye on as the offseason plays out, and will certainly affect how the team drafts. Ben Roethlisberger went on the John Calipari show this week and talked about any number of things. His playing basketball in a pool with socks on. They didn't really discuss his future with the Steelers because John Calipari is not a reporter. But one of the things that really stuck out to me is he said basketball has still been Roethlisberger's favorite sport. He even noted his sister probably should have played volleyball in college rather than basketball. She did actually play with the woman who went on to marry Landry Jones, whose name is escaping me, which is unfortunate, because she was at least as accomplished of a college athlete as he was. So shame on me for that. But the Ben Roethlisberger show was generally entertaining. He was a little more complimentary of Mike Tomlin and indirectly Todd Haley than he usually is in interviews, which is interesting to me. It would seem that cooler heads have prevailed as the season has winded down, and Ben Roethlisberger has nice things to say now. So that probably bodes well for everyone. When Ben Roethlisberger is happy, usually means the Steelers are happy, however much posturing that may entail. So Art Rooney II, the Steelers owner and general manager, no, he's the owner and team president. Kevin Colbert is the general manager. Spoke with reporters on Tuesday in 2 separate sessions. He talked about, among other things, Ben Roethlisberger's future with the team. It turns out the team president and the quarterback sat down, and Art Rooney II came away thinking that Roethlisberger would return. He mentioned that the quarterback was probably frustrated at the end of the season, but that naturally happens when your team loses in the AFC Championship. He didn't get into the specifics of why he thought the quarterback would be back, other than saying later that, well, the guy is competitive, which would make sense because, he's a professional athlete and he's been doing it for a while and he seems to like the sports, and usually in sports you either win or you lose. Sometimes you tie, but it's very rare. So I think Art Rooney's analysis is pretty accurate insofar as that the franchise quarterback of his team is in fact competitive. I don't think that will be disputed. It's a pretty liable proof statement, and I tend to agree with the idea that Ben Roethlisberger will be back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Art Rooney also discussed Antonio Brown. He was really, really happy to minimize any so-called distractions from whether it be his Facebook video or celebrations or whatever the case may be. He said they didn't really affect the team on the field all that much, he didn't think, and he just hopes there's less of them in the future if he keeps them to a minimum, which may be a more realistic approach. One of the things that really interested me in the conversation with Art Rooney II was what I'm going to call the Martavis Bryant rule. He had mentioned to reporters last year that he spoke with the NFLPA about allowing teams to contact players that were suspended for a year and or indefinitely. It's kind of one and the same, the way the drug policy works out, due to substance abuse issues, to keep in contact with the player, to check on them, to sort of support them to the extent that they can, as they would have liked to with Martavis Bryant, who has applied for reinstatement. And when talking to Art Rooney II, he said look, I thought this rule was going to get changed. It seems like a relatively intuitive thing that people would want fixed. The NFLPA couldn't come to an agreement on it, and they didn't. He said, he hopes in the future that they will, but it didn't happen for Martavis Bryant. He has applied for reinstatement, and if the NFL sticks to its guidelines of, not guidelines, they're very strict days of when a player is supposed to be guaranteed hearing and a ruling, he should be back well before voluntary workouts and OTAs. So the Steelers, conceivably, if his reinstatement application gets approved, should have Martavis Bryant back. That's week 2 in Steelers. I will leave you with one fun fact that probably won't aid you unless you're just sadistically watching this as a non-fan of the Steelers, in which case, cool, message me. The Steelers have played in 16% of Super Bowls going into the game that's going to happen on Sunday. Then it'll be a lower number. But just to underscore the whole reality of being a Steelers fan that you may be, 16% of Super Bowls. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And it's definitely going to be okay for me because it's Friday and I am signing off. And this broadcast from PennLive's Pittsburgh East End Studios is finished. Farewell.